Yells at me.
If Matt says give me 2 seconds, that means guard your upper lip.
Oh boy.
I just need a quick 30 seconds. Come on. Come on, YouTube. Come on, YouTube. There it is. Awesome. YouTube video starts with me just breathing.
Hot and heavy.
Interesting. Even if I mute YouTube, it still plays. Oh, I have it fucking open somewhere else, don't I? Yep. God, I'm so dumb.
You have so many openings.
I know. This is a shit show. Cool. Okay, now it's muted.
All right.
Yeah,
I'm just
sorry. I
excited.
had a long weekend.
Likewise.
Yeah. Did you guys play any shows?
No, not this weekend.
Oh,
I went out to Madeline Island off of Superior
nice.
all weekend for camping and drinking and camping. We stayed in a mansion the whole time. We
so
were there with
it's
some other friends.
glamping.
It was glamping for sure.
Nothing wrong with glamping once in a while.
Really drunk the whole time.
Yeah. Corey, I'm surprised I didn't text you because I text Gary a lot. Fuck. I text Zach Boyd too. Didn't remember it till the next morning when I saw his
boy.
response. Yeah. It is what it is.
Sure is.
Right. You have any questions?
Nope.
Corey, you don't get to ask more questions after the last one.
I still don't feel like I got a straight answer. But then, look who I asked.
Eric, it's Caius, right?
It is Kai's, yep.
Okay. Anything else you want besides your band mentioned at first?
When Susurrus Stirs, it's a short.
What did you do on it?
I was a producer.
Okay.
And it's short little body horror flick that's
Oh, you'll
actually,
have to talk all about it.
yeah, it's good.
And Susurrus Stirs.
Yeah.
I'm glad you
Yes.
said what it was, because every time you sent it to me, I didn't know what the fuck word that was. Alright. You guys ready?
Yeah.
Welcome to episode 54 of the Podcast of Terror, production of Galactic Nutcasts. This is a podcast about the things that make you shit your shorts. I'm your host, Matt Stein. With me, as always, is Corey. I don't know where babies come from, Scott. Corey, I'd ask how you were, but you don't know where babies come from, so we all know you're fucked.
I don't know. And also, shitting your shorts, does that mean we're going to do a prune episode?
Yes, episode 55 will be a prune marathon. Live on YouTube. First one to shit their shorts loses. For
That's the way I
more
like
on
to play.
For more on this podcast, including show notes, contact information, subscription links, go to gncast.com/pot. You can chat with us on our Slack channel during our shows by going to gncast.com/signup. While you're over there, you can subscribe to our newsletter as well. Podcast of Terror is really spoiler heavy because I don't care about people. So if you haven't seen the topics that we're going to be discussing, today is Frighteners, 1996. I guess you can call it a movie. You're going to want to watch that first, and Corey wants me to tell you that I swear.
I
Fuck
do. I like you
you.
to say it slow and low, and rub your nipples a little bit.
I have a potty mouth. I am rubbing my nipples. Enough nipple rubbing. Tonight we are joined by... Fuck, stop. All right, tonight our guest is the vocalist for the Minneapolis metal band Etheric, and he was also the producer for a short horror film called When Susurrus Stirs. I guess I could call him a friend. Eric Caius. Eric, how are you?
We are friends, Matt. I'm doing all right.
We're definitely friends.
Confirmed.
Confirmed friends. Facebook friends.
Yeah.
Shit's legit.
Mm-hmm.
We briefly started talking about this film that you produced. I didn't want you to tell me too much because I told you I'd make you talk about it. So
Sure.
talk about it.
When Susurrus Stirs is a short, I think it ended up being right around 8.5 minutes. It's a short film adaptation of Jeremy Robert Johnson's story by the same name. So he wrote a short story, and it is in this compilation of his short stories called We Are Inside You. and this is one of them. It's a body horror film. It just goes through all this grotesque stuff about this guy getting a parasite, and he ends up, instead of rejecting it and like trying to figure out a way to, save himself, he actually embraces it instead and finds a way to help spread the next cycle. And so there's lots of gross stuff.
So when is that coming out?
Well, there's no official release date right now as far as like to the public, but we are making the festival circuits. We just got accepted into a rather well-known festival. It takes place in Austin. I can't mention it yet, but if you're a Fest fan, then you probably know what I'm talking about. But we've won some awards and accolades.
Nice. When can your old pals over at the podcast at Terra get a peek of this?
I can shoot you a link to the trailer. That's the best I can probably do right now.
We'll start there.
Yeah.
But when it comes out, we'll have you come back. We'll talk about it.
Absolutely.
Maybe 2 movies because it's only 8 minutes long.
Right.
Although I could just get drunk and complain about it for an hour.
Yeah. Oh, let's do that.
By the way, the only time that Matt will ever be able to say with a straight face, it's only 8 minutes long.
Oh, boy.
What? If I ever had sex with my wife and it was 8 minutes long, I'd be real pumped. You
That's
would
like
get a phone call.
Nap.
That is 4 sandwiches 3 times in a nap for me.
Nice.
I know. I'm fucking setting the bar high. Sorry. Everyone apologized to my wife for their lack of sex life. Awesome. Well, Eric, thanks again for coming. I know we talked about this a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And finally it happened. We're way better now than the first time we talked about doing this.
Right.
We're less of a shit show than back then. But we're still a shit show. So I don't want you getting too excited.
I'm not at all.
I was actually surprised you even remembered because I texted you like 5 hours ago and you're like, you still doing this, right?
Yeah. I didn't remember at all.
Are you serious?
Yeah. No, I forgot.
Damn. Well, okay. I'm glad I reminded you then.
Yeah, me too.
You played it off like you remembered, so good deal.
Okay.
Let's get into some news here. Just some shit happened. As pre-show, Eric and I were talking, we both had really long, heavy drinking weekends, so I'm sorry. I'm not with it. I just want to go to bed. But we're here because Corey makes me love you guys a long time. Love you a long time.
Minute 30.
Well, let's see. We're done. Then we're done. Minute and 30. We're way done.
Woo.
First news story we have is I love Stranger Things. I know Corey also does. Eric, have you watched it yet?
I have. It was great.
Someone made a short DOS-style point-and-click adventure game based on like the woods scene at the start of the first episode.
Sweet.
It took me like 10 minutes to play through, but it was still pretty fun. You can download it for free at itch.io. It seems to be a free game, but people are asking for a full-length game.
Sweet.
I love those point-and-click games. We talked about one last week, and I literally was going to start playing Phantasmagoria again today, and then this fucking new mixer showed up, and there went my entire day. I blamed Corey. Corey made me buy a new mixer so he didn't have to hear himself, and we could get better audio quality.
Yeah,
And,
I was more worried about having conversations with really cool people and people not being able to hear or understand them on the show.
Well, when we first started doing this and I bought the mixer, I didn't want to spend a ton of money because I didn't really know where this would go. And it's a year later.
And it went nowhere, but somehow or another we still got a new mixer.
Didn't go that far. Yeah. Well, we got Eric here. He's, like the 4th coolest guest we've ever had.
I wear that badge with honor, by the way.
I'm going to print you a shirt that says 4th coolest guest on a podcast that no one listens to.
Have Brad do it. He'll sell it to me for cost.
There you go. If Brad's a sponsor on our show.
I know,
StatusForMerch.com.
Yeah, too bad he doesn't listen.
Oh, boy.
Special code is Tara for 15% off your order.
I'm wearing his Black Cat crew shirt right now.
I'm wearing this perfect hoodie here, too.
Corey, are you wearing Brad's shirt?
No, I'm wearing something Twin Peaks related, but I do love the Statosphere shirt that I have, which is actually for your band.
Well, that's not really a Statosphere shirt. That's the Drown the Lifeguard shirt.
It doesn't matter. It's still a beautiful shirt.
Remind me to
Very
send you
high quality.
We got the first mixes. Remind me to send those to you.
Please do.
I was talking to Corey. Eric, you can't have them.
Ah, fuck.
But since you said please, I'll send them to you too.
Thanks, man.
Real picky with who hears
I
these things.
suppose.
I got super drunk in Kansas and hardcore danced to them.
Did you?
Yeah, one of my buddies there is the singer for he's now in the band Aminaza. It's like a doom metal band.
Okay.
And I went down there because their guitar player passed away in November, so they did a memorial show. And the band that James and Jay were in when I met them got back after like 11 years for a reunion. So, like 19-year-old me, just super pumped. But on Friday, we got uncomfortably drunk. It was fucking 2 in the morning, and we're playing the songs. I just remember hardcore dancing. I woke up, both my feet hurt.
You were stomping.
I was.
Yep.
On the beat too. God damn. So glad there wasn't any video. Too dark in there for video. But yeah, so there's a Stranger Things game that came out. It's point and click. It's a little fun. Take you 10 minutes.
Just every single thing that seems to come out having to do with Stranger Things, and there's more and more stuff that's been happening with it. It doesn't seem to detract from how good it is. It's just everything just adds this little extra spoonful of happiness about my obsession with this show, and I cannot be more excited that we're going to see more of this coming up.
Everyone that I see that watches it, their first response is, I can't wait for season 2, which is true. I mean, I personally wish I would have waited longer to watch it, just so that there's less time between season 1 and season 2.
Yep. I would agree with that.
Yeah, so I don't really know your horror background. I just know you're a horror fan.
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I like... I mean, I grew up with having like the third or fourth movie I ever saw being Nightmare on Elm Street 3.
Okay.
So, I mean...
At least it wasn't 2, because if it was 2, I'd lose respect for you.
Right, that was a shitty movie.
It was a bad movie.
Yeah, but such a metaphor for homosexuality the entire way through the movie. Just it never dawned on him until like yesterday or the week before that everything was gay in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Everything.
Yeah, it was fairly recent. That was like within the past year that whole thing came out.
Yeah.
Right.
No, so like 80s style horror, Stephen King, everything that's
fuck yeah.
Yeah, that Stranger Things encompasses was for me was like it was like going home. Like watching that series was like going home. It was great.
That was the first thing in a long time that like truly felt new.
Yeah.
Which is
while feeling classic, which is weird.
Yep.
Yeah. I just hope they don't fuck up season 2.
I think as long as they keep the strong creative team in place, they'll do all right.
That's true.
That's really what it comes down to is the people making the decisions. As long as the studio and the business guys don't stick their muddy little fucking fingers in it.
Well, that's kind of the beauty of it. That's the beauty of the Netflix model is that you just get to go make great art, and you don't have to worry about results. You don't have to worry about payoff or anything because you've already been paid for it. It's all kind of set there in front of you. And just go make this shit, man. We believe in you. Here's the check. You know, do what you got to do to make a great story, and that's why I think Netflix is killing it. Whereas so many other, you watch anything on regular TV, and it's just such a mess, and you wonder how does this even wind up getting to air? But this is just like art without interference.
Yeah, I mean they really have bypassed the whole Hollywood political system as far as like the uptight bureaucracy that goes on there and all the underhanded deals and everything by having the format they have and letting real artists make shit. It's cool.
Have either of you watched Black Mirror?
I tried to watch it, and I just didn't get into it.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh god, I thought it was so fucking good. Corey, have you?
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. It's one of those things that I keep thinking I'm going to get to, and I'm hoping to. Right now, I'm trying to finish up, and it's not even a long season, unfortunately, but I'm halfway through Terriers, which was an FX show from a few years ago. And I should have watched it when it was on, and I just kind of missed it as it was happening, and I've been telling myself for a long time, like, I'm going to watch Terriers now, I'm going to watch Terriers now. So I finally jumped into it, and it's so goddamn good.
That's one of those that show should have kept going.
Yeah.
I mean, and they left it on such a shitty spot, too.
I'm not quite there yet, but...
Yeah.
Don't fuck it up, guy.
Yeah, well, hey, you said spoilers are all over this podcast, so...
That's true, but you don't spoil things for Corey, because we don't want to make Corey sad.
It's cool.
Well, Corey, at the end, the dog dies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually don't know. I haven't seen it, so if I'm right,
No, you're not.
All right, good.
Thank the Lord.
Into the future. I suppose we should move on. Sit and talk about shit that's not on the list all day.
Yeah.
Not really horror news, but still probably something that should really be mentioned. It was actually earlier this month. Now, we're not recording this like way after the fact, but they just announced it today that Gene Wilder passed away at age 83. Apparently he died earlier in the month, and his son just told everyone now, which I thought was actually kind of cool that it was able to be kept quiet for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and the thing about it is that also he's been suffering with Alzheimer's for a while, and he's not let that leak out because he didn't want kids who see him and recognize him from things like Willy Wonka to associate this guy that they see as this character with this disease and have to deal with all that stuff. So, I mean, it's just kind of... He did everything he could to just keep people smiling while he was around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was in so many good movies.
Yeah, I was mentioning to a friend at work, a lot of my favorite lines from literature I hear with his voice because he wound up saying them in films. Willy Wonka, The Little Prince, just such iconic things that have always kind of rested in my heart.
Mm-hmm.
They're from him. And then even things like were not literature, but just stuff he's done in Young Frankenstein or Blazing Saddles, everything he's been in, Stir Crazy. I only in the last couple of years smartened up and realized how wonderful Gilda Radner was and just completely fell in love with her. But Gene, like from the time I was a little kid, there was always Gene Wilder like on my TV in my head, someone that I looked up to and just loved. And so this is a hard one.
Agreed. I mean, it's kind of, we all know it's going to happen. People don't stop getting older. But luckily we have all these great movies that you can go back and watch. Relive the glory days.
Yeah, and at least he went out on top. You know, like he stayed legendary, whereas a lot of guys, you know, they lose it after a while. They go through all these crazy slumps, and they put out movies that are maybe subpar. And
Adam Sandler.
Yeah, I mean, look at that. You can just tell that he started doing it just for the dough.
Mm-hmm.
And Gene Wilder doesn't have that. You know, like he has this legacy of quality films, and that's about it.
Also, the legacy of, you know, how much he tried to educate people about cancer after Gilda developed and passed away. Things that weren't being screened, like why weren't doctors asking about history of cancer? I mean, this is back in the 80s. Like, oh, well, my mom had it and my aunt had it and all this other stuff. It's like, why are we not bringing this stuff up? Why is this not being talked about? Because by the time they discovered it in her, she was already at stage 4, and there was nothing they could do. He's obviously a very prolific comedic actor, writer, director, producer. He's just done everything, and just such a master. But at the same time, also a really incredible guy.
We should probably do Young Frankenstein soon.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you think about it, we talked recently, a little while back, I think, about horror for younger audiences, and is that something that people should have and experience? And there's some really scary shit in Willy Wonka. I mean, there's some terrifying scenes in that, and I think that that's part of what makes it magical, is that it affects kids on so many different levels. There's the part where you walk in and you see all the candy. There's the musical parts. There's the kids in the different forms of brattiness, and then there's the things that are just like, I'm going to have nightmares about this. And I think that it works in so many ways because of that, and in the lessons that it teaches at the same time, and just spectacular performances all around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love Willy Wonka. The boat scene.
Yeah.
That ultimately was turned into a Marilyn Manson song.
Right.
Fitting. But yeah, Gene Wilder died at 83. At least he made it to 83.
For real.
You know what I mean? Which,
yeah,
dude had a pretty solid life. Long list of movies too.
Mm-hmm.
So Corey, we'll do Young Frankenstein when we stop having guests. So sometime in 2017.
Yep.
It's a good and a bad problem to have.
Yeah. No complaints.
Yeah, right. The last story I got, kind of interesting, especially given the fact that there's a video game for this coming out supposedly in October, but Friday the 13th is headed to federal court to figure out who owns the rights.
Yeah, saw that today.
Yeah, seems kind of crazy. I don't know. It just says that this guy Miller wants to take ownership of the rights, which will then revert to quote-unquote someone in July of 2018.
Yeah, so Victor Miller was the writer of the original film, and Horror Inc. and the Manny Company are the ones who he worked for. They say that when he did the script, it was considered work made for hire, which is something similar to what happens to comic books, and was a big reason why Jack Kirby didn't show up on the credits for a bunch of Marvel movies for a long time, because they considered all the stuff he did work for hire, but he created or co-created almost the entirety of the Marvel Universe with Stan Lee, and it's similar to this, is that they say that there was a contract that he worked for them, so therefore the work was owned by them, even though there's some arguments as to whether or not that was the case.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly what I read too. Same thing with that other guy that was part of Batman, Bob Kane. Bob Kane, and he had a co-writer that helped. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of tough. I mean, at the time that a lot of this stuff was coming out, there wasn't a lot of creator rights.
Right.
This is obviously much later than a lot of the comic book stuff, but it still was kind of you worked for them, and there was no idea that movies or comics were going to stand up to so much time and scrutiny. There wasn't the VHS era or even the Betamax at that point. There wasn't cable that they're going to be rescreened on all the time. Nobody thought that these horror movies had the legs to just be forever like they were, and to get what is essentially 12 sequels to just keep coming out. Like, oh, I made a movie not even about a guy in a hockey mask, the iconic one. It was about his mom seeking vengeance on the campers about him. and who knew that there was just going to be movie after movie after movie, and then crossovers with other movies and dolls and TV series and everything else. And like Matt said, a video game that's coming out, and not the first video game.
Anticipated video game.
Yeah, it's just it's insane that you can't plan ahead and think, oh, this is my meal ticket. And then when you do, you wind up guarding something so much that you either get really lucky like George Lucas, who, not lucky, he worked really hard for it, but kept the rights to Star Wars for the merchandising when he could have just sold out and gotten more cash up front. Or you're like all these other people who just never get dick because they guard it too much and they don't want anybody to take it away from them, so it never gets discovered or used.
Yeah, didn't he use those merchandise rights to help him fund Empire Strikes Back too? And that's something he didn't have enough money.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to say for having the integrity of like believing in your own vision so much that you just won't let someone else take over.
Yeah.
Kevin Smith saying that he wasn't going to do Chasing Amy with all the big name actors that they wanted him to use. He wanted to make a movie with his friends, and so he took less money to do it. And he continues down that path today. He does smaller movies that are kind of funded by his particular audience, as opposed to trying to do big films. Although he's getting to do TV stuff now. I appreciate that a lot. It doesn't always work out. It's not always the stuff that I necessarily want to see, but it's still. That's kind of incredible. At the same time, there's nothing wrong cutting that big movie check and saying, fuck it, and getting out of here.
Right. Yeah, to each their own, I suppose, in that scenario.
And in either case, I respect both of those things more than the people who's just like, oh yeah, so I got hired to remake this movie. Like, I'm going to redo this film again. That's I just had a minor hit with this thing, and now they want me to redo, I don't know, Chasing Amy or fucking Romancing the Stone or something. I don't know. But it's just like that's frustrating to me, is that's what we've gotten to with art.
We definitely have.
Corey's butthurt.
A little bit.
I just wanted to yell at you for being butthurt. But yeah, so I'm curious to see what happens because I know that they were supposed to make a sequel to the reboot, or was it a reboot of the
No,
reboot?
it was another reboot. Yeah,
Fucking
it was
course.
another relaunch entirely, and I guess Jason's mother was going to have a more significant role in it again, and
his father.
And his father, yep, his father would be seen.
No one wants to see the mom at this point.
Yeah.
No one thinks of Friday the 13th and thinks of the mom.
Yeah.
That's just me, though.
You'd have to reestablish that character.
Mm-hmm.
It could be Sherry Moon Zombie, and that's.
Fuck. Speaking of, we're actually going to see 31 on Thursday.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's for some strange reason of the 400 theaters in the country, one of them is in Appleton.
Huh.
Yeah, I was pretty pumped.
Well,
I don't know. I've been trying to find this movie for a long time. You can ask Corey.
Yeah.
Scoured the internet.
I like his movies, so I would be interested to see that.
I like some of them. I know we've had this discussion multiple times, and it's like I really liked House of a Thousand Corpses and The Devil's Rejects, and then the first Halloween. Second Halloween was not good.
No, you're right.
Lords of Salem was kind of good.
Yeah,
Like, okay. I got like a weird boner off of it. And then what else did he make? I'm forgetting one.
Isn't that about it? I thought that was just those ones.
As far as full-length films, that's all I remember.
Yeah.
I think I remember like a tape or a DVD of shorts or animation.
The Haunted World of El Super Beasto.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Which is actually really good.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I guess you're right. Of all of his movies, there's only one that I didn't care for.
Yeah.
So I got high hopes for it. So maybe next week I'll talk about that. We'll see.
Yeah. It'll probably be pretty good.
I hope so. It's because it's like a one-night, one-time release. The tickets cost more.
Yeah.
So I was kind of buttered, but whatever. YOLO, bitches.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's going to do it for the news. Unless one of you want to say something else about Friday the 13th. Nope, didn't think so.
Nope.
Cool story. Before we get into the movie, I figure we should probably mention the fact that a nice gentleman gave us a 5-star review and a nice little write-up on iTunes.
Oh. Holy balls, really?
Yeah, so it took me, I read this earlier. The name was like familiar, but I wasn't sure why. And I finally figured it out. So I'm curious if you, the name is Rory G. Bellows. I'd be very surprised if either of you know what that's from. But I'll tell you after I read it. So he wrote, "This is a podcast where two dudes talk about horror movies and other geeky tangents. It's not reinventing the wheel by any means. However, it's taking the omnipresent formula and nailing it, doing what these types of podcasts do best. Let you in on a fun conversation about the things you talk about with your own friends. Super easy to get into, and Matt and Corey's chemistry make this podcast a multi-listen and very enjoyable way to pass the time. Thank you, Krusty the Clown."
Oh.
Boom. Yeah, that's the name that Krusty uses when he goes undercover, works on the shrimp boat. Not really a shrimp boat, but I'm looking at you, Jack and Dan. They probably don't listen to this, but whatever. Fuckers.
We also had a really great email from Maggie about Megan.
Oh, God.
Shit.
I got a lot of comments about Megan. Eric, have you ever seen Megan is Missing?
No.
You should watch it. Because you have...
Or don't. It depends. If there's any kind of cutlery around you, maybe not then. But when you're safe with a lot of witnesses, keep an eye on you.
It's sad as fuck.
You sold me. You
sold
me on the movie.
It's heart-wrenching. It is sad as fuck, but it's super good.
Okay.
Like, insanely good.
I will check it out.
I watched it once, and I will never watch it again.
No.
Yeah, I have no desire to ever watch it again.
I did appreciate a lot of where Maggie felt very, upset by the scenes and everything. She, like us, she kind of came around on a lot of it from Gary's discussion points on it and how why he brought it to us, the stuff that he talked about from the website and everything, and that to me is a big reason why we do this show. I mean, it's not always. We sometimes we just talk shit, but it's really amazing when those times work out when we get such great discussion from someone like Gary or from Lucy or Nicole, some of our recent guests who really bring something out from these films that we would not normally come to that conclusion on our own. So,
I suggest you go back and listen to the last episode, Eric.
I will do that.
Yeah, and good luck living up to that, Eric. Cause,
Pat those downloads.
I try to set no expectation.
Attaboy, set that bar low. You can never let anyone down if you set the bar low enough.
That's right.
Cool. Well, thanks again, Rory, whoever you are out there in the world. Let's talk about Frighteners, which I'm not sure how I feel about it.
That means he hated it.
I didn't hate it. I just was really confused by it.
All right, so to give you a little bit of layout here, Frighteners is a 1996 movie. It's a New Zealand American horror comedy film directed by Peter Jackson, which I don't think I knew before this viewing.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I've seen it several times, but I'd never really paid attention, and because I'd seen it before Peter Jackson was, getting really well known for doing Lord of the Rings and stuff. I always associated this with Robert Zemeckis, who was the producer of it, but Jackson being the director, I think this is the first time that I really caught that and paid attention to that fact. It stars Michael J. Fox, Trini Alvarado, John Astin, who I love from the Addams Family and just pretty much everything, random episodes of Night Court going back in the day. D. Wallace Stone, who is very well known in a lot of movies, but in the horror genre stuff. Jeffrey Combs, which is amazing and is always like the biggest standout to me in this movie. And then Jake Busey, who I recognize for being the lead singer of The Offspring.
Yes.
Jesus. I didn't realize that was Jake Busey. He looked familiar, and I couldn't figure out why he looked familiar. Cool. Way to go, Jake Busey.
So the story is basically this guy that Michael J. Fox plays, Frank Bannister, has a near-death experience when his wife is killed in a car wreck with him, but seemingly not necessarily dead from the wreck. They find her body thrown from the car. They find him wandering around with no recollection of what happened. And on her body is carved the number 13. He starts to have visions of ghosts and otherworldly things, becomes known around the town as a psychic who can help exorcise demons from your house. But it's basically a con job, and he's using ghosts that he has befriended to get people to pay him to get rid of whatever's going on. And so they go in, they start shaking stuff around and throwing babies and lifting toilet seats, and then they drop his card there, which I think is just like very brazen. It's like, oh, we've got this problem, and fortunately they left someone to tell them to fuck off for us. So, but the story kind of starts out with Dee Wallace's character. When she was younger, she had a boyfriend who was a kind of a bad boy, and by bad boy I mean a mass murderer. They go on the spree in this hospital, killing a bunch of people, trying to basically get the high score. And she's 15 at the time, and they couldn't prove that she had anything really to do with the murders, so they institutionalized her for years. He gets the electric chair, and the question becomes, how much of an influence was she on the killings? And as we go along, we find out more about them at the same time.
Yep. So what it
it felt really long to me.
Yeah.
Like, there was no point at which there was a real lull in the story, but I just remember periodically seeing how much time was left, and at one point there was like still an hour, and then there was still a half an hour. It's just like, fuck.
It's kind of like how time works linearly.
It does count down typically, or up also if you decide to count it that way.
I hate you both so much. The second point in which I listened, there's a half an hour left. It was when Michael J. Fox was just about to kill. What's his face?
Jake Busey.
Jake Busey, yeah. I was
Johnny Bartlett.
Yeah, Johnny Bartlett. I was trying to think of his real name, not Jake Busey.
Oh,
and I just remember thinking, like, what the hell else could they do with this? Like, this is almost over. What's left? And
I mean, it is. I agree with you because watching this again, I was surprised at how soon the ghosts that are hanging out with Michael J. Fox's character are all dispatched by Johnny Bartley, who's at first we don't even know that it's him. It's basically this Grim Reaper-looking ghost that's going through and killing people by squeezing their hearts and making their hearts stop. But he does. So the ghosts have the ability to kill other ghosts, which is not expressed a lot, but John Astin's character, the judge, has guns, and he can fire the guns, and he winds up shooting up the Bartlett's character in this ethereal form, and it does do damage. But then he comes back, he winds up killing the judge, he winds up killing Chi McBride's character Cyrus and Jim Fife's character Stewart, and it just like it gives us this finality to like now they're not just dead, but they're also completely gone. And I was surprised that happened, which is almost about the halfway point of the film. I for some reason remember them being around longer, and we do get some follow up with them later on. But it was like, oh, there's still so much to go because Jeffrey Combs' character, he's playing this crazy FBI agent who had been put in a cult and stuff to try to break them up, but has gotten so fucked up in his head and has all these things and marks on his body from being a part of them. He believes that
he needs a hug.
Yeah, he does need a hug.
He believes that Frank Bannister, who is Michael J. Fox, he believes that he murdered his wife and has been killing all these other people because they've gotten up to about 40 killings if you include the original 12 that Bartlett had done at the beginning that nobody was associating this with. So he thinks that Bannister's been killing them, and he's just kind of like trying to keep him in jail. When he escapes, he just wants him to be dead. He's like, at all costs, he wants to stop this guy. Other than the fact that he's fucked up and nuts, not a lot of reasoning going on as to why he feels this way.
Right.
But he's just so great. I mean, the best decision this movie made, I think, was getting Jeffrey Combs to play in it. I mean, he was perfect.
That line that he says when he's out front of the cop car and he's like, "My body is a roadmap of pain." That has haunted me since the first time I ever saw the movie. It was something that I both laughed at and was like really creeped out by. He had the scars and stuff. I was like, "Whoa!" But
I assume you should be the singer of a black metal band.
I mean, he's really the standout as far as what makes it feel more like a Peter Jackson movie. Because for most of this, it comes across very much like a Tim Burton film.
Yeah.
Including the Danny Elfman soundtrack. It just seems like they're trying so hard to make the next Beetlejuice, or anything that Burton was doing around that time. But the Peter Jackson stuff kind of seeps in, and Milton Dammers, who Jeffrey Combs plays, is certainly the biggest thing that feels more like it's Dead Alive, or anything else that he's done up until that point, where it's just got that perfect weirdness and that mentality that seems more like a New Zealand film. Like when we watched Deathgasm, we compared a lot to Peter Jackson's early stuff, and this has just a little bit of that. Not quite enough for me to make it like a great movie, but just enough that I'm like, it holds my interest more than it would otherwise.
So, interestingly enough about that, you mentioned the tone about it. So one thing that I looked up was this movie was written by Jackson's wife and him while they were filming Heavenly Creatures.
Yes, which they named the female lead in this Lucy Linsky. Now Linsky is the last name of Melanie Linsky, who was in Heavenly Creatures.
Right.
And she plays one of the deputies in this. It's not really much of a speaking role, but she is in here, and you could kind of see that maybe he had her planned to be the lead role in this.
Well, originally it was just a 3-page concept that was given from Peter Jackson to their talent management. Robert Zemeckis got a hold of it and was actually set up to direct it. Originally, it was going to be directed by Robert Zemeckis. But then after Jackson turned in the full script, Zemeckis said, "No, this is way more your thing." But I do think that like lighter kind of like weirder touch to it, I think that has more to do with Zemeckis being a producer and having say on Final Cut, because him and Jackson did get Final Cut on the thing from Universal, and then Universal bumped up the release date. Instead of giving it in like an October 31st release, which is when it was supposed to be originally, they bumped it up and had it compete against Independence Day.
Whoa. Yeah.
So that was a stupid fucking move on Universal's behalf.
I mean, in my opinion, this is a much superior movie to Independence Day, but Independence Day was obviously the gigantic hit that it was the summer that it came out, and this is kind of gets thrown to the wayside there. It's also the last movie that Michael J. Fox did.
Yeah, his last starring lead role. Yep.
He went from this to doing Spin City, and that was basically, right. He left Spin City because that was when he got diagnosed. It took a little while to find that out, but this was. I mean, it's so much like, let's take Dead Alive or Bad Taste and try to make it palatable to a mainstream American audience.
Yeah, that really was Jackson's intention anyways, too. He was trying to prove with this flick that, New Zealand movies could work and stand up to the same both technical and story-wise, like scrutiny or whatever, that the Hollywood flicks can. They can compete. So this was kind of his deal with that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it helped him get some foothold in to be able to be given things like The Lord of the Rings and make these giant epic movies that now everybody knows him for.
Yeah.
And hugely successful, and have some crazy-ass box set coming out that's way too expensive.
Right, yeah. Yeah, this was the first one before he actually started working on Lord of the Rings. Or the last one, rather, before he started working on that. So.
I don't understand how you feel like you could take something as graphic as some of the stuff like Bad Taste and Dead Alive and make it palatable for like mainstream.
It's pretty tough.
I don't think it's possible.
I think what it is that they were starting to see, like, these films were starting to catch on VHS. People were watching them. They had never been released at the theater here in the States, but people were talking about them. People understood that there was something called Meet the Feebles, and it was like, what the hell is Meet the Feebles? And they find it. And so there was an undercurrent of people that they were hungry for this new kind of content. And I think what they did is they said, all right, let's see what we can do, but they didn't want to play super loose and outside of their wheelhouse too much, so that they said, well, at the very least, we can package this like it's a Burton movie. And people like Burton movies at this point in time. So it wasn't so far gone, but I think it was just reined in enough that it couldn't get people super excited about it.
Yeah.
Like, that audience is out there, and that audience wants this weird shit. But it's still... Hollywood thinks it's an underground audience. And I think what it is they just haven't gotten comfortable enough to take risks yet.
Yeah, not quite yet.
I never want to agree with you because I hate you so much, but I think I agree with you. I still hate you.
Jackson, actually, they were trying to neuter this movie more when they made it to try to get it a PG-13. But the MPAA, of course, they still came through with that rated R. And Jackson still friggin' hates them for doing that to this movie, he says.
So this was rated R?
Yeah.
I don't feel like it should. I don't think
Yeah, there's nothing in it that makes it feel like it needs to be.
Yeah.
There's no extreme language. There's nothing horribly violent to it. I mean,
really.
There's certainly things that kind of like give you the willies, but nothing that is so out of bounds. And most of the violence, especially the ghost on ghost stuff, is so cartoonish.
Mm-hmm.
None of it really makes it like the use of blood in things like Dead Alive. That's why it's a gore fest, and that's why it's rated R. But all of the cartooniness violence of it is no more extreme than a Tom and Jerry cartoon.
Right. Yeah.
That's a really good way to put it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess I picked this movie because it is not necessarily a horror film, but there's like scary elements to it, and kind of shows the background of a guy who, you know, did some different stuff along the way to doing some really huge stuff.
Which is a valid point. I mean, it almost felt like an adult Casper.
Yeah, kind of.
In a sense. I mean, there's scary stuff, like especially the thought that a serial killer could still kill you from beyond the grave.
Which is not... I mean, that's been explored in
a lot of
Nightmare on Elm Street, or Shocker, which is probably more recent than this. But it's not unusual. The cooler part about it, I think, was the mix of the dead serial killer and the still living partner.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think that was a cool idea. I thought that one thing that caught me when I very first watched it when I was a kid was like, oh, it has like the lightheartedness of Back to the Future with the whole Zemeckis Michael J. Fox tie-in, but also it has this weird darkness, and it's about killers and murderers and stuff. So when I was 13 or 14 or whatever it was when this movie came out and I saw it for the first time, I was just sold on it. Plus all the cool special effects that really hadn't been done or seen before at that point.
Mm-hmm.
All the CGI stuff, that was pretty sweet.
Yeah, and the CGI stuff in this really holds up. I mean, it doesn't look like it's aged much at all for being from 1996, from 20 years ago now.
Yep.
Which just feels insane, but I watched this movie and it's timeless. We just rewatched the two Ghostbuster movies the other day because there was nothing better on a Saturday, and those movies still, like, there's something about them that they never get old. They never feel old. While the second one isn't nearly as good as the first one, it's beloved because of its association to it and because we've been watching it for however many years.
Right.
But certain movies like this, they continue to hold up over time. And I feel like that this is a movie that if I played it for somebody today, they wouldn't think this is a 20-year-old movie.
Right. Yeah, and I guess I like any flick that doesn't take itself too seriously, which this one does not. I mean, it's not afraid to... I mean, he pulls out the hemorrhoid donut before he gets on the car in the cop car seat and stuff. I mean, just stuff like that. Yeah. And also that it broke a lot of new ground. I mean, the digital effects I was reading, I mean, anybody can read this kind of crap on the wiki page and it could be total bullshit, but I mean, it was an 18-month visual effects run on this movie. I mean, it was the longest time. WITA at the time had only been open and existing for 3 years, and so it was the biggest undertaking of projects that they've ever done as far as the digital visual effects on Frighteners goes. And they had to break a whole lot of new ground. Plus, they pulled in like Rick Baker to do the judge's facial makeup when I was reading on, which I had no idea. So, I mean, a lot of cool stuff all like went into the pot to making this, and it ended up breaking a lot of new ground. We wouldn't have maybe gotten the same versions of, you know, Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit or any of those cool movies without this one coming first and showing that what Peter Jackson could do given, what, $26 million?
Is that the budget for this?
That was the budget for this.
Jesus. I could see it. I mean, in 96.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it was $26 million and it made $29.3 million.
I know, right?
Which, good that it made all its money back, but it's just too bad because, so many of the characters, there's not an emptiness to them. Even things that are just like throwaways, like the husband of the girl in this dies, and like is hanging around, kind of a Bruce Willis-esque Sixth Sense thing, and he's sitting there and he's trying to have conversations, and then he even like he's an asshole and he knows that she didn't love him, and he's realizing in death like she kind of couldn't stand him, but he still tries to go to protect her when he sees her goes into this freaky house.
Yep.
And then gets like final killed in and everything. But his character has a lot of quirkiness and depth. The different ghosts, the judge, and the judge wanting to have sex with the mummy character, or not character, just like a corpse, a mummy corpse, because she's got good teeth. It like Lee
Some of us try very hard to have good teeth.
Yeah. Lee Ermey showing up as the military guy and keeping everybody in line in the graveyard. It's just like everybody's got these great little quirks that kind of stand out. Everything seems more fully realized than what's necessary, but it gives depth of character to each of them. The woman who hates Bannister and winds up getting killed and blames him as she's going into heaven, she's just still screaming obscenities at him because she thinks that he killed his wife and he murdered her, even though that's not the case. But just like the gut wrenchness of it, of like, this is how she's going out, is she still despises him. Like, there's something
on her way
really
to heaven.
Great about this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I always like that.
Could be worse.
You didn't like the movie?
Man, I really wanted to because I like you and stuff, but
it's all good.
I didn't know what I was gonna see.
Right.
I didn't know what I was in for. I remember seeing the poster when I was a kid. That's about it.
And that's part of the problem too, is that the poster and even the title, it just doesn't really stand up to what the movie is. It doesn't describe it very well. It feels like it's a different movie that it's trying to pitch.
Yeah, and that was one thing too that was listed on that Wikipedia page because I'd always loved the movie, I'd never really looked into the background of it or anything, but that was one thing that Peter Jackson was, quoted as mentioning, that he really thought that Universal, a big part of the problem with the movie, quote unquote, failing would be not only the distribution of it, as far as like pushing them up and making compete against Independence Day, but also then they didn't know how to market it, and they didn't know how to, get out to those audiences like me or you that would have maybe enjoyed it in the theater at the time.
Yeah, it's a hard movie to sell. It's a hard movie to sum up. There's a lot that goes into explaining what it is without giving it all away, which is what we're kind of doing here. But again, if you don't say to people, well, it's from the guy who did Dead Alive, then what do you do?
Yeah, I don't know. Kind of try to break it down like what we do then.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, based on the movie poster and what I remember being a kid, I never would have thought that this movie was what it was.
Sure.
It's an adult Casper done mediocre. This it didn't need to be 2 hours long. I'll tell you that.
No, it could have been. Yeah.
It could have been shorter, but then I feel like we would have lost some things that I think are parts of my favorite things.
Mm-hmm.
Like they go through the scene of Bartlett and what was her name? Patricia killing the people in the hospital. That part seemed to go on a little bit long, and I don't know that it was completely necessary because Bannister is going around bumping into things and kind of like going in and out of what happened and what's going on now as he's being chased.
Yeah.
And they have the other thing of Coombs kind of showing up and still trying to capture him at the same time and getting in the way of things.
Mm-hmm.
Bannister being essentially flatlined to turn into a ghost to be able to go chase Bartlett.
Yeah, the out-of-body experience. Yeah.
It does, like, those things kind of stretch out, but at the same time, they're things that, again, give the story more than what it just would be on its own.
Yep.
And it's like we figure we're right there with Bartlett getting killed. I think the only thing that could have happened is instead of Bartlett getting away and just kind of like coming back and being himself, which was kind of disappointing after seeing him as this cool Grim Reaper looking thing for so much, is that if he had gotten defeated, but then we realized that the other killer that's still at large is Patricia, and utilizing that more. But he was the more interesting one because he was the ghost. It was his abilities that made the story what it was.
Yeah.
So there's something that just crossed my mind is at the end of the movie you see Bartlett pick up a knife, but earlier in the movie you see ghosts flying through Michael J. Fox.
They do, but they can move things with corporal form. I mean, that's one of the things that Ray Linsky says when he's sitting at the table. He realizes, I can affect the real world. I can move stuff.
Yeah, he does say that. I can move shit. Yeah.
And it's because of that Cyrus and Stewart are able to haunt people to get Frank business.
See, I must have been doing anything other than paying attention.
There's a scene where when they're hanging the babies around and they're throwing them around through the room and stuff.
Yeah, I remember that. I didn't remember him pointing out that like they have the choice to manipulate stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of different inconsistencies that sort of play out throughout that. I mean, I know at one point when they're in the mansion, or they're in the house and Patricia's killed her mother already, and they're chasing Frank and Lily through that house. They wind up in that one bedroom, and then Bannister breaks the painting, and then the spirit of Johnny Bartlett comes out of the painting and automatically gets sucked into that urn.
Yes.
And I was kind of like, when I rewatched it just again today, I was like, well, what the fuck? Now they got to try to explain this urn and why that has magical powers to me, like. Where's that in the mix?
Thing's a little weird, and they kind of just skim over it. They say,
yeah.
Milton's like, well, I suppose you need to get this to hallowed ground and everything. Oops, and just pours it out. Yeah. And it's like, okay, that's good because it shows us the cliche while eliminating the cliche. But you're right, it's still a lot of effort for something that doesn't really even pay off or make any sense for where the film ends up.
Yeah, it was kind of contrived a little bit, but I mean, those things will happen. It is horror after all.
I mean, in some ways, it's to give all these different characters, and there's a lot of characters, it's to give them something to do.
Yep.
Which seems dumb, just have less characters. You didn't need to have all these characters.
Yeah. That's true.
But the only thing I can say to that is that I found every character that showed up interesting in what they were.
Yeah.
Trying to think.
Like, I would watch or read a series or whatever about Milton Dammers. I kind of regret that he died at the end, but if they had done a sequel and have him be a part of that in the afterlife, man, I wanted so much more of him, and I want to see his life history. I mean, he's like the opposing opposite of Dale Cooper from Twin Peaks to me.
Oh yeah,
like it epitomizes this weirdness, and like there's this whole world that he's a part of that you just kind of want to follow down that hole.
Yeah, he's like Fox Mulder, but with anxiety disorder.
Yeah.
I think Corey wants a sex scene. I think really that's what he's getting at.
A little bit.
Probably what he's getting at.
No. Hey, Corey, guess what other movie he was in?
He was in Reanimator.
Fuck yes, he was.
Nice.
Yeah, Combs is great at creepy. I mean, that's why he was so perfect to choose to be in this. If you guys ever watch, and I know you probably won't, but the Justice League Unlimited series,
I watched it twice.
The Batman animated series and everything, he was the Question on that series. And he's got that great weirdness to him. He's hanging out with the Huntress in that, and like he's just like he questions everything. He's like all about conspiracy theories and stuff. And that is so perfect for who he is as a character actor.
Nice. I did like how this was a one and done movie. How the movie had a very distinct beginning, middle, and end. They didn't do that whole like leave it open for a sequel type thing. Yeah, I did. I feel like I missed that about movies of yesteryear. When I was growing up, everything now is set up to be a franchise, set up to be a sequel, set up to be whatever, and I miss those movies where it's just, this is it, you know?
That's a really good point, actually. This movie only meant to be a one-time movie, which now it's how many movies can you make out of one story?
Yeah, exactly. How long can you stretch this out? You never get to finish any of your actual expository dialogue or anything like that. It never really actually goes anywhere because you can't reveal too much.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that people care about is how many dumpster slut sequels you can make.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, we were talking about Stranger Things earlier, and I know that they've announced the next season is coming out, and they've said that it will be a sequel. I would not have been disappointed at all if it hadn't been. If it had just been another series, another story, different town, different people, maybe even a different time, I would have no problem with that being the case. I'm not upset that it's a sequel, but that was my expectations that there's still story that could be told with these characters, obviously with Will and everything, where they leave it at the end of the series. But I just thought that was it, and not having answers to those questions was part of the great story that they told. Is that there's still so much there that we don't know and we don't get the answers. But I agree. I think sometimes things are written to be franchises when they don't need to be, or they certainly, no one's demanding it or asking for it. By the time we get through the second and especially the third Insidious films, it's like, oh, Jesus Christ.
But people keep seeing them. I'm one of them.
Keep seeing them, right? Yeah, but that's a problem. Is that we've been conditioned by Hollywood to have sequels and tie-ins and everything else. It's not just Insidious, but then it's like spin-offs about dolls and spin-offs about this other shit.
Yeah. Whoa. The Nun from The Conjuring 2 was fucking terrifying, and I'm excited to see that movie.
And that may be the case, but
shut up, Corey.
It didn't used to have to be that way.
Don't be a dick.
Yeah, it definitely didn't, and I do miss those days. I, too, was hoping with Stranger Things that they would make it like the first Netflix-style show where they did unrelated seasons of the same show. Kind of like a...
American Horror Story?
Well, sort of like that, I guess. Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe they'll do 2 seasons on these characters and then move on to a different batch.
I mean, we had True Detective did the first season, and the second season were completely different from each other, except the second season was just terrible.
Was it bad?
Train wreck.
It was such a mess. It was like just seeing somebody who was like at the top of their game just push out a lump of shit. Probably because they were just under a ton of pressure to do it.
I'm gonna delete season 2 then, not even bother watching it.
It was like watching Dennis Rodman stand underneath the basketball hoop and do cocaine while trying to get rebounds.
Did you ever hear that he broke his dick jumping into a girl's vagina?
I did never hear that.
Yeah, he took
it
running. No, it was just some hood rat, but she asked him to take a running start and jump into her vagina, and he broke his dick.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I can't say don't watch the second season.
Oh, I thought we were just trying to get away from Dennis Rodman dick talk.
I can't say don't watch a Dennis Rodman porn.
It's
funny when he comes, he looks just like Shaq. But I just watch it because there's certain bits. It starts out with some magic. I just think that Shaq's got a great O face. There's certain elements there that it's like there's potential. There's this moment of such weirdness. Where somebody's playing music at the bar after one of the characters has seemingly died, and then they didn't die, and it starts out great, and then it just goes way the fuck off the rails, really fast and really poorly.
Let's save this for our true crime podcast.
Yeah, but it's
you have that too?
It's not
coming out next month.
Oh, shit.
No, I stole that joke from our friends Jack and Dan at Worst Episode Ever. Every time they get off topic, they're like, "Oh, I'll save that for this blank podcast."
Well, now that we got that mixer, we got to put that shit to work.
Yeah, we probably should. Fuck. I don't do enough with my life.
Frighteners.
Yeah. Why are we here again? Let's rate Frighteners, I guess, unless you guys got something else. Cool. No. So we do it on 3 categories. 0 to 5 scale, we go rewatchability, story, and then scariness. We're going to start with rewatchability. Eric, being our quote-unquote distinguished guest, you may go first.
I hold this at a 3 out of 5 as far as rewatchability goes. There's enough likable factors for me, and I seem to find myself stumbling back across it when there's really nothing else that I'd like to watch.
Fair enough.
So, yeah.
Corey, I hate you, but you can go next.
Yeah, I'm going to say 3 as well. I think that it's a perfectly valid movie to catch once in a while. I wouldn't go seeking it out, but if it happened to be on and there's, Dick All else and they're not playing Good Eats reruns on the cooking channel, I would watch this again.
I'm going to go 2. Pretty much what Corey said, just I would rather watch Dick All else, potentially.
Rather watch commercials during a NASCAR race?
Are you going to watch this or Megan is Missing between the two?
I would watch Megan is Missing.
What? Oh, shit.
Until the last 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Then I'll just go to sleep. Story 0 to 5, Eric.
A little bloated, but overall, I think everything in it was necessary. We'll go 3.
Not too bad. Corey?
I'm going to say 4 just because I love the characterization in this. I think that everybody in this is so enjoyable, and like I said, there are characters that I would like to see a lot more of their either history or what can be done with them later. Dammer's character reminds me of something from like a Douglas Adams book.
I'm going to go 2.5. I feel like if it was more condensed, I may have liked it more. I didn't hate it. I don't know. I think I expected to like it more. I thought Eric would pick a better movie.
Like I said, no expectations.
No, man,
you picked the right movie for this week.
I agree. I definitely agree with that. And you said you watched this a lot when you were growing up, right?
Yep.
So there are a lot of movies that Corey hates, but I loved them because I saw them when I was a kid. Yep. For example, Strangeland. Now,
I like that movie.
Yeah, but it reminds me of like being a kid. Now, if I saw it for the first time now, I'd probably be like, "Whew, this is a fucking bad movie." But
it can be both. It can be both. It can be something that's bad that you love.
Yep.
Scariness 0 to 5, Eric.
Oh, I mean, it's like a 1 or 2 on scariness level as far as, I mean, there's some creepy spots in it here and there. The overall concept is pretty scary, but execution-wise, not a lot of scares in it.
Fair enough. Corey?
Yeah, same. I'll go 2 at best because it's not really frightening, other than just looking at Jake Busey's face.
Right. Pretty terrifying.
I'll give it a 2. I mean, the visual effects weren't bad for the time, especially. Definitely not a movie I would masturbate to again. So it got a knock there. But
wait, you said again?
Mm-hmm. I sure did.
You weren't kidding when you said you'd rather watch Dick All.
I was watching this movie and I'm like, ooh, Dick All's on. Rub one out real quick. That's fantastic.
That's the first time anyone's ever jerked off to Jake Busey's teeth before.
That you know of.
Now I'm picturing like Jake Busey as a character named Dick All who does like a home improvement show where he goes around and fixes things wearing overalls and has hammers hanging on his pants.
Make sure that's a one and done series.
Get on that, Corey. Draw a comic about Gary Busey as Dick All.
Please do.
Awesome.
By the way, I can't think that there's anything more one and done than Jake's career.
Right. It was pretty bleak.
You can contact us. Oh, okay. If you thought Corey should draw a comic about Dick All, starring Gary Busey, you can contact us by leaving us a voicemail at 805-328-3966. You can email us at PoT@gncast.com. You can leave us a message on the website. Also, Corey wants to hear from you, especially about how much he should draw a comic called Dick All. Because I want him to draw a comic called Dick All.
I actually want you to write me stories about erotic Matt porn as he watches movies and masturbates to the key scenes.
Challenge accepted. Corey, God damn it. You're so good at just derailing me. Just let us know what you love, what you hate about the show. Maybe you want us to go deeper into Dick All or erotic Jake Busey porn. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Podcast of Terror. You can subscribe to the podcast via iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and any of your favorite podcatchers. Leave us feedback on whichever one you like our new friend Warigi Bellows. Big old 5-star. All the subscription options and links can be found at gncast.com/subscribe. You can follow us on our Facebook page under Galactic Netcasts. Eric, if you want people to find you on the internet or anything you do, this is the part where you say it.
You can check out the band Etheric that I do vocals for. That we have a new album coming out, Serpents Beneath the Shrine, at I think it's Etheric MN on Facebook.
Yeah, there's going to be a link in the show page to your band.
Perfect.
Sure.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Fucking singers. Also, Etheric was featured main event and rounds and breakdowns on my other podcast. So if you want to hear what they sound like, go listen to that. Pad those downloads. Get me off of this podcast of terror shit. Get me the fuck out of here. No, I love you, Corey. But yeah, make sure you check out his band if you're into heavy music.
Yeah.
And if you're not, just download it, mute your computer, and hit play to get him another download.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Corey, where can people find you?
If you're not into heavy music, but you want to look at some nice pictures with stories that I sometimes write, but certainly are usually produced by someone much more fun and creative than me, Levi Krause, you can go to don'taskcomics.com, where I don't draw.
How are you going to draw Dick All if you don't draw?
It's a challenge. It's going to hurt. I probably will just put a marker on my penis.
I'd pay to see that. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at MattTheLifeguard. Thank you very much for listening to another episode of the podcast here, and we will talk to you guys next time.
Thanks, guys.
Cool. I'm going to kill YouTube. Bye, YouTube.